Today we'll be talking about the Richardson family murder. So today's case takes place in Alberta, Canada, and that is where the Richardson family lived. So in 2006, the 42-year-old father, Mark, and his wife, 48 years old Debra, and their two children, 12 years old Jasmine and 8-year-old Jacob. And this family of four lived in a city called Medicine Hat. About Mark, Mark has a past with severe substance of abuse. He was and the same goes for Debra as well. Yeah, they were both doing severe substances, drugs. Both of them actually met in a rehab. I'm not sure how true this is, but they did actually meet up in a rehab. When they both met each other, they were like, you know what, like, we want to do our life differently. We want to take different actions. We don't want to do drugs and alcohol anymore. We might as well just focus on each other. The Richardson family was one of the most perfect family in the neighborhood. Literally everyone loved them. Their neighbors loved them, their friends loved them. They all thought that the Richardson family was actually the ideal family. They were like the picture perfect family, and you know, everyone just loved them until as Jasmine became a preteen. Jasmine was like a really good girl. She was like a very sweet person. She was always into studying and all that. She was into arts, swimming, like literally everything. She was an A grade student, but then suddenly as she turned 13, she was slowly losing it. She started to make friends with a different group of kids, and she met those kids at the mall. Those kids, they weren't even normal kids. They were like goths and all that. She loved the way her friends would talk about mental health, and they were really deep. Like, her friends were actually really deep, and she actually liked that. She liked how she can relate to these kids and how these kids can actually relate to her. Jasmine was really reserved. She wasn't really into the things that she liked anymore. She changed her looks, she changed the way she spoke, she literally changed everything about her. So where would she meet those kids up? So when they wanted to hang out, they would usually go to the mall. That was their usual hangout, and they would also go to the rock concerts. She went to Misfits and Slipknots. So when she would actually go to those concerts, she loved it so much. She loved the music, she loved everything. And let me remind you guys, she was only 11 years old at that time. The kids that she was hanging out with was probably around 16 to 17, and she was around 11 to 12 years old at that time. While she was in that concert, like, she really did enjoy and all that. But in that concert, she met this man, a fully grown man. He was around 23 years old, and his name was Jeremy Steinke. When he saw Jasmine, he thought that she was actually really pretty. Now at that time, she didn't really look 12. She looked like she was probably 15, 16 years old, and that too, it doesn't really justify, like, even if she did look 15, 16 years old at that time, a 23-year-old man approaching a 16-year-old girl is not okay. It just doesn't sit right with me. So Jeremy makes a move on Jasmine, and she likes it. And yeah, obviously since she liked it, she really did. She also flirted back with him. So then at the end of the night, Jeremy ends up telling Jasmine that he really liked her and that he would like to catch up with her sometime, and she was like, yes, I agree. So you know what, like, how about we exchange our numbers? And so they did. And after exchanging numbers, they did meet up a couple of times in the mall with her other goth friends. After meeting a couple of times, they eventually became a couple. So what Jasmine really liked about Jeremy was that Jeremy was like mature compared to the boys that she was studying with, which is quite obvious. So Jeremy had like a leadership type of power. Like, whatever he said, the group would immediately do that. I mean, obviously because he's an adult, like, it makes sense why the teenagers would even listen to him. But yeah, every time Jeremy had something to say, like, it would be like everyone would be turning their heads around towards Jeremy, and they're listening. They want to know what Jeremy thinks about it. Like the kids around her, Jasmine's friends actually wanted to know Jeremy's opinion on everything. So he liked that, and she liked that as well, and she thought that, wow, I'm probably dating some leader. Like, this is what I want, this is what I need. Jeremy at that time had a lot of admirers. Like, he had people that actually liked him, especially young girls. Like, the girls would go crazy over him. He knew that these girls were younger than him, way younger than him, but he never said anything. I don't think he ever dated anyone as young as Jasmine. But yeah, he liked the attention that he was getting. He would also flirt with young girls, but Jasmine is the first youngest girlfriend that he ever had. Jeremy's childhood wasn't that good. Jeremy had a really rough childhood. He was a dropout from school. He did get a lot of bullying. His childhood wasn't that good. His mother was a severe alcoholic. She was still an alcoholic even when she was pregnant with him. Until this day, it is known that she's still an alcoholic. And his father was so abusive, it was horrendous. He was extremely abusive. He would literally beat Jeremy and his mother, especially his wife, and that might be the reason why Jeremy's mother was an alcoholic, to deal with the abuse that she was facing from her husband. So this, imagine Jeremy's situation, the fact that his mother is an alcoholic and his father is so abusive. He has nowhere to go, he can't speak with anyone, and even if he does try to speak with anyone in school, I'm sure he gets bullied because of that. I'm sure he gets bullied because of the way he is. And his mother also admitted that she was a bad mother because of the way she was neglecting him throughout his entire childhood. Imagine Jeremy's situation. He didn't have that kind of love. He didn't have that kind of support. Or he didn't even have a shoulder to actually cry on. Like, that's actually really sad. Like, no child should ever have to go through that. He didn't really have a role model. He had to actually raise himself. He was there for himself. He had to teach himself stuff. And, you know, when he would go to school, he got a bit violent. He would beat kids up. In school, obviously, I mean, the teachers would be like, oh, you're wrong, you shouldn't be doing this. But then he's thinking in the back of his mind, he's like, my dad literally beats up me and my mom, and no one says anything to him. So why is this wrong that now that I'm doing the same thing here? Like, why is it wrong? It doesn't make sense. And of course, his mother eventually ends up divorcing his dad, Jeremy's dad. But this doesn't stop the abuse. Jeremy's mother ends up getting boyfriend after another boyfriend. Once this doesn't work out, once this relationship doesn't work out, she ends up getting another boyfriend. And then, yeah, the cycle basically continues. And the abuse never stops, because either it was his dad or the boyfriend's basically abusing Jeremy. That's how bad it was. So obviously his mother kept surrounding Jeremy with bad people around him, and at the age of 13, Jeremy started to have mental health issues. He started to have like a lot of problem mentally, and he could not just take it. He had a lot of mental health issues. In order to cope up with everything that's going on in school, in house, what he did, started smoking weed every single day from 13 years old to 23 years old, and his brain wasn't even fully developed. A brain fully develops at the age of 25, but this kid didn't even let his brain to develop. So at the age of 13, he was smoking, like non-stop. He was smoking. So at the age of 13, Jeremy was also getting piercing and all that, studs. As he got older and as he got into high school, he started stepping up his game. He was dyeing his hair as he got older, and then he starts wearing blood right around his neck. He literally got this chain or necklace, I don't know. He got something like that, and then he dropped blood in it, and he would just wear it around his neck. Yeah, I'm not sure whose blood it was. It was maybe his own blood, but he was wearing blood. So when he would wear his necklace or a chain, I'm not sure, he would tell people that the reason why he's wearing a blood chain is because he's a 300-year-old werewolf. And it did make sense that at the age of 13 to 14 years old, this little boy was lying to people. He was wearing a necklace, not out of fashion or anything or aesthetic. He was just wearing it because he wanted to. He was telling people that he needs to wear it because he's a 300 to 400-year-old werewolf. If he doesn't wear the necklace, the bloody necklace, then he will eventually he will eventually look like a werewolf. Like, his true form will come out. So to look like a human, he needs to wear the blood necklace. But also tell people that he was drinking blood. He was so serious about being a werewolf. He's like, yeah, I'm a werewolf. Like, this is who I am. This is me. I'm a werewolf. I'm a 300-year-old werewolf. And he was so serious about it that he literally kept this going to the age of 13 to 23. He never backed away from his story. He was really serious about it. And it's actually kind of sad if you think about it, because I feel like the reason why he was literally going on with a lie is because he wanted attention, which he never got from his parents. Anyways, so there was this one time, in order to make the kids believe, he said that he and his friends made cookies, and in that cookie he actually dropped some blood, and he said that the cookies came out pink. But it doesn't make sense, because if you cook something with blood in it, doesn't it turn brown? I don't know, but yeah, that's what he said. But obviously, likewise, no one really believed him. He thought that if he lied to those kids, he will get friends, but instead it was the complete opposite. He got bullies. They would literally bully him, like, so much, to a point it got really bad. At home, he has neglectful parents, and at school, he literally had kids bullying him. And the way that he dressed up, the way he colored his hair, the way he portrayed himself, he never got any good attention. All of the attention that he got was just really bad. He was like a target. It's like he was the food for sharks around him, if that makes sense. So obviously, while he was getting bullied a lot, like at school, neglectful parents, there was no one for him. Eventually, at some point, Jeremy tried to commit suicide. It was like last minute that he survived. Like, luckily the parents got him in the hospital in the right time, or he would have lost him. So yeah, that kind of worked out a bit. He did get the help that he needed. The help that Jeremy got was for a short amount of time. He did see some therapies and all that, but honestly that didn't really work for him. What people would say is when they met Jeremy didn't have a mindset of a 20-year-old. He had the mindset of a 15 to 16-year-old person. Like, that's what some sources said. His mentality was actually really different. He didn't seem like he was very mature. In his teenage years, he never had any friends, and then he ends up meeting a group of goth kids, and they accepted Jeremy for who he was. They never judged him, and in his 20s, he was doing okay because he finally made friends. Gothic friends. So that makes sense why he was actually attracted to Jasmine. That makes sense. But then again, a 23-year-old man with a 13-year-old girl, no, that doesn't sit right with me. That doesn't sit right with me. Since Jasmine was in Jeremy's life, Jeremy's life was actually getting better. He finally felt that, okay, fine, like, there's someone for me, there's someone that actually cares for me, someone that actually loves me, and that person is Jasmine. But unfortunately for Jasmine, as Jeremy was in her life, things got worse. Jeremy was helping Jasmine how to do her hair, her makeup, how to pose for the camera. She did all that. Obviously she had her hair straight, she had like crazy makeup on, she had her eyeliner done. Jeremy also helped Jasmine to actually open a MySpace account, and she would just post her pictures over there. So from a goody girl, she turned into some weird teenager, anyways, some goth kid. Jasmine's parents noticed that really quickly, and they did their stalking. They wanted to know what was going on with their daughter, what happened, why is she like that, why is she being like this. They were not okay with the way things were happening. They were just not okay. So obviously her dress up didn't just change like into her just wearing full black. Her dress up was also a bit more revealing, and her parents noticed that, and they were not happy. They thought that she was actually changing quite a lot because of the way she's dressing up, the way she speaks to her parents. Her parents think that the group that she's being friends with are not a good influence on their daughter. Her parents thought that just being friends with a group of people doesn't change someone like that. Like, there must be more to it. And they did their talking and all that. They wanted to know what was going on, and then eventually they end up finding out that their 13-year-old daughter is dating a 23-year-old man. When her parents found out that Jasmine was actually dating this 23-year-old man, they were horrified. They were so upset. They were really mad, and they weren't just upset at Jasmine. They were upset about the fact that a 23-year-old man is literally having sexual relationship with their daughter. They feel like this man is literally taking advantage of a 13-year-old kid. So they were like, this is not okay. And they didn't even say anything to Jasmine. Jasmine at that time thought that she was being punished. But yeah, she wasn't being punished, but she thought that she was being punished because her parents said that you're not allowed to see this man anymore. And she didn't take that well. She was actually fighting back with her parents because she actually wanted to meet him. So she was banned from calling him, texting him, or even meeting up with him. And she thought that she was being punished simply for falling in love. So eventually what Jasmine's parents does, they actually take Jasmine's phone, laptop, so that she doesn't get to meet up with Jeremy. Not just that, even when Jeremy actually leaves the house, one of the parents will be there with Jasmine, because Jasmine's fighting hard. Like, she's fighting back. She wants to meet this Jeremy guy, and her parents are just like straight up saying that no, you're not meeting up with him. Whether you like it or not, you're not meeting up with him. And she's just not okay. She's not doing okay. Jasmine doesn't understand why her parents are saying this, like why her parents are not allowing Jasmine to meet up with Jeremy. So there's like more frustration, more fighting every single day. Like they're literally fighting and arguing every single day because Jasmine simply doesn't understand. And obviously any grown adult can actually tell, like, no, this is just wrong. Like, why would you even meet up with a kid? Jasmine finally found a way to actually communicate with Jeremy, and that was through vampirefreaks.com. He was on this site ever since he was like 13 years old. It's like a site where people like him, people who believes that they're like some sort of mythical creatures, they can be on this website. I don't think it's available anymore, but he was actually on that site ever since he was 13 years old. He was on that site for 10 years. They actually found a way to talk. So Jasmine, eventually she actually made an account over there because she wanted to communicate with Jeremy. So she set her age to 15 and her username was Runaway Devil. So Jasmine's back on this site, vampirefreak.com. She's literally talking to her boyfriend every single day and night, and her parents has no clue that their 13-year-old daughter is talking to a 23-year-old man 24/7. So Jasmine and Jeremy would plan on how they can actually meet up with each other because her parents was completely, like I said, obviously they were not okay with it. So what Jasmine's parents would do is they would drop Jasmine to school, market, and wherever Jasmine was, one of her parent would be there. She and Jeremy was actually making plans on how they can actually meet up. They also allowed Jasmine to actually go back to rock concerts again, but guess what? Jasmine's parents, like one of them was actually with her, and she was actually really embarrassed. She did not like the fact that her parents was around her while she was enjoying the concert. One of her parents was around her. After 1 or 2 gigs, she was like, no, this is embarrassing, I'm not doing this ever again. So eventually she actually had to stop going there because her parents would always follow her around. Anyways, fast forward to April 23rd, 2006. It was a lovely day. So about Jacob had a friend called Garrett, and they were like inseparable. While Jacob was in school, Jacob didn't really make any friends over there because he had a friend called Garrett and he was really close with him. Jacob was always into Star Wars and all that. He loved it, and he also loved Garrett a lot. And Garrett was the next door neighbor kid. It was a bright sunny day, and Garrett was like, oh, it's a beautiful day, let me just go to Jacob's house and let me knock on the door and ask him if he wants to go outside and play with me. Garrett went over to Jacob's house and he knocked on the door and he waited. No one came, and he knocked again. Again he waited patiently. No one came. So he was wondering, he was like, Jacob's dad's car is literally right here, so why wouldn't they open the door? Like, it doesn't make sense. If the car's here, they're supposed to open the door, but they didn't open the door. Why is he not opening the door? And he knocked again. The third time, no one came out. So what Garrett decides, he decides to actually look through the window and see if anyone's in the house, and if so, he will just shout them out to let him in or let Jacob out. So the only window that Garrett could reach, as he was 8 years old only, the only window that Garrett could reach is the basement window. So what Garrett did, he ran over to the basement window and he crouched down and he saw something horrifying. There was a woman's body that was laying on the floor and it was bloody. Like, there was literally blood all over her body. So this 8-year-old child has just discovered a murder. This poor kid was so terrified that he literally screamed and he ran to his house. He went there and he literally told his mother everything, and his mom kept asking him, are you sure? Garrett, are you sure? You better not be lying to me about this because this is serious. He was like, Mom, no, I'm not lying. You need to come with me and you need to see it for yourself because I'm not lying. There's literally a body of a woman on the floor. So what Garrett did, he actually took his mom to Jacob's house and she went near the basement window and she crashed down and she saw, like, holy shit, my son's telling the truth. So the mom panicked and she ran with her kid inside her car and she called 911. She was scared. She thought that there's probably a killer on the loose. So she called the police and they rushed down the scene and they were here by 1 p.m. And when they arrived, they knocked on the door. No, obviously no one was opening. What they did, they actually kicked down the door. And when they went in, they saw 3 dead bodies of a Richardson family. There was 2 bodies that was found in the basement house. The mother, Deborah, was viciously stabbed all over her body. it was really bad. And the other body was near the stairs. So obviously Mark's body was like near the stairs. That's why Garrett couldn't see his body, neither did his mum. He was viciously stabbed as well to death. And upstairs there was the third and last body. It was 8-year-old Jacob, and he was still laying in bed. His toys were literally near him, and he was tucked in bed, and his throat was slashed. So the police's immediate theory was that Mark probably went upstairs, slashed his son's throat, and then he went downstairs, he stabbed his wife to death, and then he stabbed himself. But that doesn't really make sense, does it? And then what the police did, they actually went to the living room, the family living room, and what they found a family picture, and they saw that one of a family member, a girl, was missing, and they were actually worried about her. Where is the fourth member? So they thought that this fourth member was probably kidnapped. So what they did, they actually sent out an Amber Alert. So as they sent out an Amber Alert, they also called the media, and they were like, if you see this girl, please help us to find her, because like they were actually worried about her. And while they were doing that, they were also busy investigating this whole crime scene. So they also called the forensic team, and while they did that, they also went door to door, and they were asking the neighbors. They were like, how did this happen? Did you hear anything? Do you know anything? The neighbors were shocked. They were like, they're such nice people, how could this happen? Like, we don't even know anyone that would actually want to even try to kill them, like the family. And yeah. But when the forensic team came over, they could tell by the blood splatter. They literally put the puzzles together, and they could tell what exactly happened. So what the forensic team said that the first person that actually got murdered was Debra, the 48 years old mother. Debra got stabbed to death. And then the second was the husband, Mark. He was stabbed to death. The difference here is that Mark actually tried to fight back. Debra, she didn't even try to fight back. She just stood there, and unfortunately she just took the stabs. But Mark was trying to fight the killer. He tried his best. There was like stab wounds like on his chest and behind his back. The third victim, he was probably upstairs while he heard his parents screaming on top of their lungs. He was probably in bed, scared, and he was wondering what was going on. The murderer went upstairs, stabbed Jacob a few times, and then slashed his throat because he was still alive. While the investigation is going on, what the police does, the police also sends some officers in Jasmine's school. The police were actually going through Jasmine's lockers, her laptop and all that, and over there they found something shocking. And the police also speaks with Jasmine's school friends, teachers. They also go through her lockers. So it takes the police officers 20 seconds to go inside her room and find her laptop. When they actually went through her laptop, they obviously found out all the chats and all that. They also found out Jasmine's and Jeremy's relationship, as it was really obvious. And they also found out vampirefreak.com, MySpace, literally everything. They found out everything, like the way they were literally talking to each other. Like they could tell what was going on through the chat. So obviously her last status on her social media was, welcome to my tragic end. Like that was her last status. So by now the ambulance poured in, everything poured in, and people were saying that they saw Jasmine roaming around, and it didn't seem like she was in any kind of trouble. She was actually having the time of her life. She was just happy. She was okay with whatever was going on. She didn't seem like she was scared or distressed or anything like that. So Jasmine was in the restaurant. She was just eating, and one of them actually reported to the police how Jasmine had made a comment, gutted like a fish. So obviously the police were actually worried about where Jasmine was, but now that they're thinking about it, Jasmine wasn't even in, like, she wasn't even scared. Like she was okay, like with whatever was going on. She wasn't worried about what just happened. Like there was so much going on. I'm sure she has already heard about her parents literally being murdered. But then again, Jasmine's not worried. She doesn't know. Like, does she know? Does she not know? I'm not sure. But at this point, she was just living her life. So obviously the police officers in that area warned other police stations to keep an eye on Jasmine because she was not safe for the public, like to even like be near the public, as she was like she could be the possible murderer. So the police warned every other police station to keep an eye on Jasmine, and if they find her, to get her in. And within hours they actually had her here. They found her 81 miles away from her house. So obviously after 24 hours they have arrested 24 years old Jeremy and 13 years old Jasmine. So the police got both of them in, and they were in holding cells right next to each other. Jeremy and Jasmine started passing notes to each other while they were in a holding cell. Jeremy sent out the first note to Jasmine, and the note here actually said, "You said you want to get engaged. Then here's a question. Will you marry me? If so, then it's a verbal agreement." To which Jasmine replied, basically laughing, saying, "I never thought I'd find myself hysterically laughing in a holding cell in these kind of circumstances. But still, yes, you make me happy. Yes, I would love to." So the time came where the police was actually questioning Jasmine and Jeremy, but in two different rooms, and they were quite cooperative. So Jeremy told one of the officers that, "Have you watched Natural Born Killers?" And he said that is one of the best love story of all time. In the movie it shows that there's two characters, boy and girl, and the boy, well, technically he kills the girl's parents because they were very abusive, so the couple ends up becoming a serial killer. But for Jasmine's parents weren't even abusive. Jasmine and Jeremy, they kind of related to that movie quite a lot because they could see their situation with that. But the truth is, Jasmine wasn't even getting abused, so what were they even on about? So Jasmine and Jeremy gave the police a lot of information, and they were able to piece all the stories together of what exactly happened that night. So here's what I got from Jeremy and Jasmine. So the early hours in the morning, 23rd of April, Jeremy actually left his house all black, but this time he was actually very intentional because he really didn't want anyone to see him. And not just that, he was really intoxicated with all the drugs and alcohol that he took because he was really nervous that he was going to commit a crime. So he walked all the way to Jasmine's house, and Jasmine left the window open for him so that Jeremy could walk in. But while Jeremy was inside the house, Jeremy made a lot of noises, like a lot. Debra, the mother, she came downstairs because she wanted to know what was going on. And while she came downstairs, he knew that someone was going to come down at this time. So what he did, he actually hid behind a few boxes and all that. And then what he did, he hid in a place where someone literally had to walk all the way inside and literally see where the noise even came from. So what Jeremy did, he hid, and he was waiting for his target, and the target unfortunately was the mother. So the mother came all the way to the basement room to see what the noise was. Jeremy takes out his knife. Jeremy Steinke started stabbing Debra. She was stabbed 12 times, and even while she was being stabbed 11 times, unfortunately she was still making noises. And the only stab that actually killed her was the stab that went right through her heart. After that, obviously, she was done. She was killed. While Debra was actually getting stabbed, she knew that her father was literally on his way. So what Jasmine did, she actually ran upstairs before her father could see her so that she could actually calm Jacob down. And because of a loud commotion, obviously Mark came downstairs, but before he came, he actually went towards the kitchen to get a screwdriver because he wasn't really thinking straight. So he got a screwdriver, and once he came down to the basement, he saw that there was his wife's body and there was literally blood all over it. Suddenly Jeremy jumps on him and starts stabbing him, and obviously when Jeremy starts stabbing him, he tried to run upstairs and got stabbed on his back. And he couldn't even see Jeremy because he was actually wearing a ski mask. So obviously while he was getting stabbed on the back, he literally fell on his back. And then what Jeremy started doing, he started stabbing him on his chest. And while he was stabbing him, he was actually fighting so hard. At some point, Jeremy ends up losing control, and Jeremy ends up losing control, and Mark actually takes control over what was going on. Jeremy suddenly gets this whole situation in control. He gets his knife and he starts frenzy stabbing him on his chest, his abdomen, everywhere. While he was stabbing him, Mark was actually asking, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" And then to which Jeremy replied, "It's because that's what your daughter wanted." So in total, Mark was actually stabbed 9 times in his back and 13 times on his chest. and one of the stabs was so hard, like while the knife went through, the knife bent. So now, as Mark was done stabbing him, Jeremy was looking for his girlfriend, Jasmine. So Jeremy knew that Jasmine was upstairs. So what Jeremy does, he goes upstairs with his bloody knife, literally dripping all the way down. And Jasmine was in the room calming her little brother, saying that don't worry, everything's going to be fine, don't worry. And then Jeremy walks in and hands Jasmine the knife, and Jasmine's like, I'm sorry. And then she starts stabbing him on the chest, and while she was doing that, she stabbed him, I think she stabbed him 3-4 times. I'm sorry, I couldn't really get much information about Jacob. But yeah, she stabs Jacob 3-4 times, and Jacob was making some gurgling noises, and she was scared. She was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this, and she was crying. And then what Jeremy does, he literally snatches the knife from Jasmine's hand and literally slashes Jacob's throat. And the next morning, while they ran away from the house, they were having sex in the car, and she brought it up that, oh, it was funny how I killed my brother. So after killing Jasmine's parents, Jeremy and Jasmine thought that they are actually free and they can do whatever they want. Fortunately, that's not how it works. That's what Jeremy and Jasmine said, the same story in the police interview. So what one of the police officers did, he dressed as an inmate, as an undercover inmate, to see to get more information from Jeremy. So he went there and he ends up finding out that this time Jeremy actually changed the story, and he was like, it was Jasmine that stabbed Jacob. Jeremy had no part in killing Jacob, and it was all Jasmine. He ends up telling the officers, he's like, yeah, she's crazy, she's got her screws loose way more than I actually do. So at some point after killing the whole family, they went to some friend's house for parties and all that, and they didn't even try to hide. Like, they were literally out in public, like they weren't even trying to hide. And not just that, Jasmine has also been making comments about her family in school, that how she wants to kill her parents. She would always be like, oh, I'm gonna kill my family, I'm gonna kill my family. She kept saying that over and over again. And now that they look back at it with her friends, they said Jasmine actually said that quite a lot, like a lot. And it turns out Jeremy Steinke has been making the same comments about Jasmine's parents. The way Jasmine would say it, she would just say it in a very light, easy way. But the way Jeremy would say it, he was actually very serious. He was like, man, I swear, like, I'm gonna kill them one day. Even online, he would actually say the same thing as well, how he was going to kill them. Jeremy was actually quite serious about it. Like, he wasn't even joking, he was actually quite serious. Jeremy would also post quotes like how he was going to kill his girlfriend's parents. So he wrote a poem about killing them, and the poem says, payment, my lovers' rents are totally unfair. They say they don't really know what's going on, they just assume. Their throats I want to slit. They will regret the shit they have done, especially when I see to it. They are gone, they shall pay for their insolence, and finally there shall be silence. Their blood shall be payment. It is so bizarre that this has been posted 2-3 weeks prior to the murder, and no one said anything. And the fact that his friends were like 23 years old, they all saw this post, they all read this post, but still no one really thought that they probably should step in and tell him, dude, what are you doing? Like, stop. As the police actually went through Jasmine's and Jeremy's social, it was Jasmine that suggested that they should murder their parents, and Jeremy was like, no, let's not do that. Let's just like run away, like we don't have to murder anyone. And Jasmine was like, no, if we run away, then these people, they will actually find me. Let's just kill them, let's just murder them and get over with it. Even when she was in school, she would draw comics, and on the comics it would show that she's literally killing her parents. Her art teacher actually saw that, and the teacher didn't even think that it was important to even mention about this to the principal, about this 13-year-old kid literally drawing about how she wants to murder her parents. It was literally like a plan. There was this girl, 19 years old, she was actually a part of a goth group, and in this 19-year-old girl's car they actually found the weapon, the knife and all that. And Jeremy was literally using Casey just so that they could actually get away with the murder. So the night of a murder, Casey was actually waiting for Jeremy and Jasmine to get in her car after the murder. They literally drove around, and not just that, they also Casey also she was actually trying to hide the weapon, the murder weapon. Like, they actually tried to see if Casey was involved in the murder, but turns out she was not involved, and she was just manipulated by Jeremy. Jeremy would always give her hints like, oh, if you do this for me, if you do that for me, eventually I will actually love you. But yeah, he was just manipulating her. Jasmine was actually protected throughout the whole case, and in that case, Jasmine and Jeremy, they were Jasmine, she went to jail when she was like, what, 12 years old, and while she was 12 years old, she was in prison for 2 years. So basically, according to the Canadian law, it is said that when a kid below 13 commits a crime, they are basically still a child, and hence the only punishment they'll be getting is only 10 years in jail. So she will be out literally in her 20s. So basically for 10 years, she will be in juvenile, which means that when you're in juvenile, you get therapy, you get fun activities, games and all that. It's just good stuff, okay? Good stuff for the kids. So basically it's not really a jail. You can't really call it jail if she doesn't really see her mistake. So for 4 years she was supervised, and you know, just she would be checked on and see if she's mentally fit to be, you know, to be a part of the world. More like a probation program. Basically, it's more like where she would be released back into the society. And while she was serving these 10 years, which is not really a jail, she was in school, she was out and about, she was doing her university degrees. Anyways, so let's talk about how Jeremy Steinke's lawyers tried to approach this a bit differently. Basically, they were saying that Jeremy Steinke was not responsible for the murder because he was so intoxicated, which doesn't make sense. Like, did Jeremy take those substances because he was about to kill someone? Like, it was on him, right? I mean, he did that on purpose. So Jeremy claimed that he went that night in the house to have a cup of coffee and just talk to them that, look, I like your daughter, let me just get her. Since the mom and dad got into a heated argument with Jeremy Steinke, that's when Jeremy Steinke striked with his knife. He was telling in the courtroom that he went there just to, like, you know, tell the parents to easy up, to lighten up, and to tell them that you should let your daughter, I mean, come with me. But in the meantime, while he got there, he got intoxicated, and then the parents ignored him, which made him snap. And as you know, that's not true at all. Anyways, Jeremy and Jasmine, we were basically, both of them were turning on each other. They both were trying to put blames on each other. So he was saying that it was Jasmine's idea. I mean, yes, it was, but then again, Jasmine was like, it was Jeremy's idea because he's so old and so mature, and the fact that this grown man manipulated Jasmine, she was like, this is not my fault at all. It is all Jeremy. Jeremy's the one that made me kill my parents. It's not me. And no, I didn't even kill my parents. Jeremy did it. Jeremy was like, yeah, but you forced me to do it. You talked me into it to kill your parents. Which is true, I agree, because social media, they never lie. I mean, based on what the police officers found, they don't lie. Obviously, none of these accusations really worked because the courtroom knew what Jeremy was getting himself into, because mind you guys, he is a 23 years old grown man, and he knew exactly what he was getting himself into. So he's not innocent. So at the end of his trial, he was found guilty of all 3 counts of murder, and for that he was given 3 life sentences. His first opportunity to get a parole will be in 2023, which means in this year, which is quite big. But with 3 life sentences, I don't see it. I don't think that's good news. Before they were sentenced, they had a psychiatric assessment, and Jeremy's came back completely normal. But Jasmine, on the other hand, hers was different. She was diagnosed with conduct disorder, which is something that is only diagnosed within children and teens, because conduct disorder is the start of something, another more serious illness or disorder, you could say. So basically what conduct disorder refers to is a group of, okay, so sorry, I had to Google that because yeah. So basically, if you don't know what a conduct disorder is, it basically refers to a group of behavioral and emotional problems characterized by disregard for others. Children with conduct disorder have a difficult time following rules and behaving in a social acceptable way. Their behavior can be hostile and sometimes physically violent. So that's how bad it is. And if it's not treated in time, then you've seen Jasmine, you've seen what she did to her parents. I mean, that doesn't sound right, that doesn't look good. So if it's not treated in time, may Allah forbid, something like that can actually happen. And that is why Jasmine was sent to a psychiatric hospital instead of a prison. She was there for 4 years. And actually, she was doing quite good. I mean, even the law was actually looking at her. The law was like, she's doing quite good. And she was showing genuine remorse. Like, she understood what she did. She was feeling remorseful. She was feeling bad for what she did to her family. And even in general, like, you know, in her social life, people could tell that she was actually a lot more empathetic and a lot kinder, to be honest. She didn't seem like that 13 years old Jasmine Richardson. She didn't seem like that person anymore. It seems like the Canadian justice has done a great job, like, in helping Jasmine. A lot of people didn't really agree with her sentence when they first heard it, and I completely agree with that, because come on, if you're old enough to kill someone, you're old enough to face the consequences as well. That's what I strongly believe, and if she got away with the murder, I don't know what to say, and that's just not fair. Anyways, Jasmine's period ended in May 6, 2016, and that was it. Yeah, she was just living a life. She was free. She was done. And the judge that made the ruling said that her parents and her brother, if they were here, then they would have forgived her and would have been happy by how far she has come. But I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't even know how the judge could even say that, because when I first read the story, it just boiled my blood. It got me infuriated. Jasmine's relative still keeps in touch with Jasmine. She has her mom's mom, her mom's sister, and her dad's brother or sister is still in touch with her. They even said the same thing, that yes, if your parents saw you, then they would have been proud of you. And now in 2022, they see a different woman. They see how much Jasmine has changed. So in 2021, Jasmine's whole criminal record actually got removed. So who killed Jasmine's, family? No one. Literally, the killer's gone. I don't know how to feel about that. So basically, legally, she can change her name, she can change everything about her, because she no longer wants to associate with that person anymore, the person that she used to be. But I don't think that's fair. Come on, that's not fair. If you're old enough to commit a crime, you should be old enough to face the consequences. She legally changed everything about her in 2021. So who killed the Richardson family? No one. No one. Who is Jasmine Richardson? No one. This Jasmine Richardson person doesn't exist anymore. So basically, the way Jasmine's living right now, it's like as if her past never existed. She's living as a new person, and that's that. She got her criminal records removed. She doesn't have to tell anyone anything. She can just walk away with it and just be like, I don't want to talk about this. And then if people are like, you're Jasmine Richardson, she's gonna be like, no, what are you on about? Who? No, that's not me. So basically, she doesn't have to tell anyone about her identity. She doesn't have to tell her partner, her landlord, her workplace. She doesn't have to tell anyone about who she was. She can just live with that new name and then just live her life. So as of today, there's not much information about Jasmine Richardson. There's nothing about her. I guess she's doing okay. But about Jeremy Steinke, he's still in jail, and apparently he has changed his name now. So his name is Jackson May, but he didn't change it legally. It's just something he goes by. So that is the end of the case. Thank you for watching, you guys. Please stay safe, because it's just a scary world out there. Look after your kids. See who they're talking to, because you never know how scary life can be. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video, and if you have any suggestions for me on what story you want me to cover, let me know. I'll see you then. Bye.